Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Scoped In with myself, William Cho. Now, we're going to continue with VCT Masters as we just wrapped up Masters Tokyo and had our first ever two-time international champion in Fnatic, which, by the way, absolutely well-deserved. One of the things Fnatic is well known for is their IGL boaster. And I'm not talking about his twerking or dancing or any of that, which obviously that's also very famous. But I'm talking about his ability as an IGL. It's always been praised. It's always been praised for its potential and the results it's often brought home for Fnatic. Now, of course, I'm not here to say that every decision we see happen on the minimap is made just by the IGL, especially, things like mid-rounding, some other factors. A lot of it just comes down to comms and really sharing information among your teammates. And different teams have different styles, right? Some teams have like a designated secondary caller. Some teams, the IGL decides the macro decision, the big picture decision, and then everyone's, of course, contributing based on the information you're gathering. But at the end of the day, the IGL is kind of the center, right? And they're holding the key to the macro picture, kind of the big round to round. Sometimes maybe your duelist will make a call and say, hey, I want to do this in this next round. And but again, the IGL kind of makes that call to say, okay, well, let's do that or not. Today, I want to look at what exactly does it take to do that, and how can we start to maybe assess, okay, this is really good IGL-ing versus, maybe this is kind of really just comms being good amongst the entire team. Fnatic might not be the best example for this, just because it's very clear that their IGL-ing and their comms are really good, which is probably why they won yet again at Masters Tokyo. But I want to take a look at just a couple of rounds in the finals that showcases the thought process between both Fnatic and their opponents' evil geniuses. Let's jump right in. So we're going to be taking a look at a couple rounds here on Split, which was map 2. You could really actually do a deep dive on any map that either Fnatic or EG played to take a look at their calling. Both of them actually have slightly different styles, obviously different strats as well. I would also recommend looking at NRG if you want to take a look at how you can visualize the calling that a team does on the minimap. But here, let's focus on these two teams on Split. Now, we're going to take a look at round 5 first. And something that's happened up till round 5 is that EG's really been focusing on mid, right? Ever since the pistol round, they've been really vying for information on mid first. And then afterwards, like on their eco, they maybe try to get the orb here on B, and then they'll still try to vie for information over on mid. They'll maybe even take up to male or vents and things like that. And they've had this toxic screen here on the A side the entire time, but they haven't really done too much with it. And one of the reasons that it hasn't really had too much impact is because a lot of Alphair's trap wires have always been in the site. In fact, this one's pretty far forward for Alphair standards as well. A lot of times they're like here and here, or like here and here, where you're really just waiting to find out, did they actually make it into A? And these wires have, of course, allowed Fnatic to actually counter the focus on mid or even B main. So 4 rounds of this go by. EG did win, of course, the anti-bonus, so they get the 1 round on the board that in theory should be theirs, and then they lose the very next round again. So now we look at round 5. You've got Bladestorm for Demon 1. So you can assess that even though a couple of them can afford rifles, they're still just going to go through with it, right? They're not going to say, okay, let's all save, because you got Bladestorm. Really, it's just going to be Boostio, who doesn't have a weapon. On the other side, for Fnatic, we have Rolling Thunder and Seekers for On the Breach and the Sky. So what that tells us is that they have a lot of power for retakes, first of all. But then on top of that, after having the trap wires all over A for the longest time with a camera up in heaven, and not really caring about what movements EG makes on A, because none of it's really been too fruitful, they're now set up for a trap play. Chronicle is ready for the Rolling Thunder onto ramps and A main. And then you have these two, the Sky and the Rays, ready to bounce and pinch that at the same time. Now, this type of focus allows, Fnatic to kind of just hold a backwards defensive position on B. They'll eventually put up a trap wire here and the camera here just to gain information. But even if the Rolling Thunder goes out, they still have the Seekers for the retake as well. So right away, what we're going to find out is EG, they've now learned their lessons. So they go for a quick attack, which they haven't done the whole game, but this actually draws out the Rolling Thunder, the Trailblazer. Great set play from Fnatic. And Dirk is going to get the instant kill. Now, he does bounce back into the paint shells and eventually dies. So that's a bit unfortunate. But the idea here is both teams have made this adjustment, right? So e.g., they decide, okay, we've been focusing on mid this entire time. We've been focusing on the B main orb this entire time. Let's do something that we can do with the double duelist. We've got the Blade Storm going as well. So something we can finally do is go for this quick push. We haven't used the Toxic Screen in this manner this entire game, so this should come as a surprise. But Fnatic is one step ahead, and they say, okay, you guys have been focusing on mid the entire time. We have Rolling Thunder and Seekers, so quite frankly, if we can just like fish for information in mid and check B main to see if you ever even peek with the camera, we don't really mind giving up this entire area, right? Worst case, we've got Seekers. You know, if you try to come in through here, we've got Rolling Thunder over on the A site. You've got Paranoia originally on the Omen over on B. So they just let that go, and they say, what's the one thing that could catch us off guard? It would be that if they go for a fast strike over onto Heaven, as you often can with the Rays, and especially double duelists. So he set up this trap play, and Fnatic gets the read. So while not the entire team of EG doesn't fall for it, right? It's just the Rays who gets caught. But really, Fnatic's goal was, if anyone really tries to follow through, maybe even the Jet will catch both the duelists, and then they won't have any entry power. But if not, let's just catch the Rays, and it's a done deal. It's now a 5v4. We are now looking at round 10. And let me tell you, between round 5 and round 10, the other 4 rounds, EG has continued to focus over on mid, and then the B main orb. That's kind of been their MO. They did pick up a couple more rounds in between, but the overall start has always been quite similar. There was actually a couple mishaps happening on the side of Fnatic as well. They tried to push out with the op as well. So all things aside, both of them are kind of trying to one-up each other in mid the past couple rounds. So as that goes through, EG decides, okay, we've seen Fnatic try like another trap play here in Vents with the Showstopper. We've seen them push out with the Operator. They're really starting to devote a lot onto mid. We've done that for 4 rounds. Let's change it up, right? And let's build up the tempo again. However, the Rolling Thunder is available for Chronicle, and we can see on the minimap he's actually ready for the exact same play that happened in round 5. So EG, surely aware of the potential that this is going to happen, what they decide to do is they are going to really try to take over B main. Instead of like slow creeping and maybe just getting the orb and getting out, they want to pressure, they want to catch someone off guard on B. And if it happens, great. But if not, they can still get a better idea of what the setup is over from Fnatic. So if we let the round play out, we're going to see Fnatic. They have the same setup that they did in round 5 with the camera on B main. And instantly, I mean, Gravity Well, Guiding Light, Double Blast Pack, everything is committed over to B. And this now puts on a lot of focus onto B, right? The smoke has to be here where main is still under EG's control. And this is now kind of flipped how they used to do things, right? They would oftentimes pressure B mid first and then try to creep into B main. But now they've had the star set up in mid as well, and they're continuing to deny all this information and slowly taking space. We'll let this round play out because we're going to take a look at the consequent round right afterwards as well. But with all of this, they spot one over in Heaven. They even took up over all the way into Mail. They see the smoke come out, and Jagamo's just going to try to creep around and continue to gain as much space as possible. Like they're not happy with just Mail. They want to take over this entire area. Now, the Cloudburst actually favors Demon 1 so well. It makes Boaster actually run into the wall a bit, and Demon 1 will be able to entry quite swiftly into the site. The Rolling Thunder actually does come out, and Chronicle is just trying to get the pinch, but he's got his bionic arm out. He gets taken out. Demon 1 continuing to stay alive as well. He gets the kill on Alphayer, and that is the end of the round. So then we move right on into round 11. So what did we just watch, right? We watched, well, we didn't watch the rounds in between, but we saw EG continue to pressure mid, and then in round 10, they go for a fast hit onto B main. deny information in mid, slowly creep up. But because they know, and they took over B main, they know they can set up a two-pronged attack at any point. They realize no one's pushed out, so that B, they can go in, and if the entry is good, they'll be able to take over the entire site. EG makes that call. Rolling Thunder was used as well for Fnatic, so they don't have that available anymore. So, Fnatic, they will go back to old faithful trapwires over on A, the camera over in heaven. This camera is very good, by the way, because it can still see the cross into the site while still keeping tabs over on the entrance from ramps. And this allows them to really just have to, like, keep an eye on vents, maybe a little bit of mail, and really focus either on mid or B main. And what we will find out is Fnatic, they're going to counteract the fast tempo from EG by making a tempo move of their own. Let's just pause right here, okay? It sounds very simple because we're looking at the minimap, but you have to recognize that both of these teams and their IGLs, they always only see half of the map, right? Like, we see this right now, but this is, I mean, not even that. Like, this is, well, quite frankly, with the positions they have, like, this is what EG sees, okay? Like, they don't see any of this, okay? This is all gone, including the site. They don't know where anything is happening. At the start of every round, they have to fish for this information. So, look at what Fnatic does. We just saw the fast tempo onto B main, and they say, okay, well, let's fight it, right? And if it happens again, we'll fight it with 3 people over here. You've got Paranoia and Guiding Light as well. You go for the one-way right away. You even do the Shadow Step. The Guiding Light tags no one. And that allows them to secure the orb over on B main. So now this has a backup plan, right? They've been able to take over B main. If there was a fight, they had the 3 members who are able to really duel it out. And since it didn't happen, they continue to push forward. Because here's the thing. They haven't heard anything from EG. They're just now hearing it as I pause, right? So up until the Trailblazers coming out from here, they haven't heard anything on A. So are they in mid? Like, right? Are they watching for the flank? We're not quite sure. We haven't seen anyone on the camera here or here. We haven't heard any noise. We haven't seen any movement coming into ramps or vents. And so Fnatic says, okay, well, it wasn't the fast tempo. We gained this area over on main. So if we are able to push out, we know exactly how much of the map we're working with. The Trailblazer does actually get spotted right as it bursts by Boostio. So Boostio is aware that they've lost sight. I think that's probably also why EG decides to just go on this timing and they go on the aggression. And EG will start the attack. Now, from here on out, it starts to go into mid-rounding territory, right? And comms and good trades and good duels, things like that. But the focus being, as this round plays out, this kind of bouncing back and forth, right? Okay, what was the start that previous round from them? How many times did they do it in a row? What skills did they use? Are those skills still available? Is it the same weaponry? And then also, what are the habits, right? Okay, they creep up into mid, then they've often gone to B because they've never cleared the trap wires. So the first couple rounds, Fnatic has a much easier time deciding what the setup's going to be. Now, here, of course, Durka wins the first duel. That was always set up to be a trade as a backup anyway, so it's not the end of the world. It's really just here, Fnatic just makes a great breakthrough with their flashes. And then actually really good neural theft here from Alpha Year. It forces Common to a bad position. But again, this is all obviously like the members left alive. They're making these calls. They're able to play it out. They set up good positions and things like that. But I just wanted to draw attention to the fact that it's easy for us to determine, okay, well, they've done that the past couple rounds, because first of all, we can see the entire minimap, but also, I mean, we're like seeing all the skills on both sides, and if you're watching from home, the casters are telling you, and even as casters, like, that's all we're ever focused on. But if you're playing, so much of this information is denied from you until it happens, and then you need to keep that in mind. And what's impressive about Fnatic is that they're able to gather enough information, combine it with the database that they've prepped, and then preemptively force the question in the middle of the game, right? And say, okay, well, this is our play. Like, this is our trap play. Oh, you got caught by it. Okay, well, what's your answer next time, right? They did it again in round 10. They set it up again here. And EG goes for a fast push into B main, right? And eventually EG plays that well, because now they've said, okay, well, we're also denying information in mid. And we could at any point, come back into a main if we wanted to, because this toxic screen is still here. So a lot of, again, bouncing back and forth. So that's just a quick look at a couple rounds, again, to see how these teams could possibly be making these decisions. It's not that they're just pulling things out of a hat. And quite frankly, maybe one day we'll take a look at an entire map and say, really keep tallies on all the information each team has gathered and see if they use it to their advantage or not. Because once you start doing that, which I would assume is a lot of what casters are doing, that's how I try to look at a game as well, it starts to get really interesting, because you realize, like, we see setups on the minimap of like, well, the Killjoy setup was here, and then you realize, oh, but they've never really spotted it, right? They've only spotted like the turret or whatnot, and then they get hit by it, several rounds later, and you're like, oh, well, they just never knew. You could guess, but they just never knew. And then certain teams, they'll like purposely butt their head against it, and they'll say, okay, information gathered, we know this is the setup they use, next time we have to clear for that ahead of time if this is the same strat we want to do. So again, this was much more kind of bigger picture in between these rounds, just see how they adjust, what information they're working with. But while it may sound simple when you're watching a YouTube video, you got to remember, they're in the heat of the moment. They're still playing the game. They have to fight their own duels as well. They got to use their abilities. You have comms going on. You got mid rounds, decisions being made across the team. And then you still have to make these decisions round to round in the 20 seconds you're given during the buy phase. So absolutely impressive, quite frankly, from both teams, but obviously Fnatic, they end up being the champions of Masters Tokyo. So huge congratulations to them. And now with this information, hopefully you guys can find a bit more depth whenever you're viewing the upcoming matches for VCT, which would include things like VCT Ascension across the 3 regions, or the 3 leagues, I should say. And then, of course, LCQ coming up right after that as well. And then we go right into Champions. So there's so much more VCT. I will actually be going to VCT Pacific Ascension over in Bangkok, Thailand here in a week. So I'll see you guys there. Those matches start right away tomorrow. So stay tuned. I'm very curious who's going to pick that one up. If you liked this video, please like the video and leave a comment down below. That helps me a lot. And also let me know, are there any players or teams that you want to see, or types of plays, types of positions maybe that you would like to see broken down as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more. And with that, I will see you next time here on VCT Scoped In.